Do you believe you sold out?
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to episode 56 of Hashtag Beer Time. In this episode, I sit down and chat with the owner and founder of Jack Black's Brewing Company, Mr. Ross McCulloch. We look at highlights from the past 11 years, how the South African market compares to the rest of the world, especially the US markets. We also look at what skills are needed to start in a microbrewery in South Africa. We discuss the partnership that Jack Black entered into with Heineken and what that means for the company in the future. We also look at the SA markets and what's on the horizon. This is a great show and I know you're going to enjoy it. Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Hashtag Beer Time. It's been a while since you heard from me. I've been taking a bit of a vacation from the podcasting, just 2 weeks, but I am back, and I'm back with a bang because I've got a very special guest, actually a former boss of mine, but we can get into that later. I'm sitting at Jack Black Brewing Company's warehouse in Deep River in Cape Town, and I'm sitting with the founder and owner himself, Mr. Ross McCulloch. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. Thanks for having me, Troy.
I'm very excited to have you on the show. You've also had a bit of a holiday.
Yes, just before season,
before
the chaos.
You've got some colour.
Yes. Yes. Just before season, a quick getaway, go surfing up in the Maldives with some mates. So that was fabulous.
You still surf?
I still surf, and I drank Jack Black in the Maldives, which is like the cherry on top. I still surf as much as I can.
From what I recall, part of the only reason you get invited on these surf trips is because you supply the beer. You have to bring a case.
Yes, that's the case, but quite often I've let them down because we don't have markets in Indonesia, Madagascar and all those kind of places. But we were lucky enough this time to be drinking some Cape Pale Ale on a boat around the Maldives was special. Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, we've got a beer in front of us, and it's when I asked you downstairs which beer we should go for, you were very excited to kind of talk about this.
Yeah.
So this is the Cape Pale Ale.
Yeah.
And it is customary to just get stuck right into it. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to
cheers. Cheers.
And maybe you can just tell us a little bit about this beer and why you wanted us to drink it.
Cape Pale Ale is really driven around the Cape, local ingredients as much as possible, and just something a beer that encapsulates our lifestyles around the Cape and the weather and our outdoors living here in the Cape. And so we thought about it and what we did and how we went about our days, and we wanted a sessionable ale because of the weather and the climate. We also wanted something that's slightly lower alcohol, so you can have a few, particularly on those hot days, but had enough, an ale, not a lager, but also had enough interest to be unique, obviously different to a lager, that kept people coming back. And so we went through the dry hopping process as well. And we have a really surprisingly interesting ale that is sessionable at the same time. So that we're excited about it. It's showing really good growth in the marketplace, and people are responding to it, which is awesome.
Do you think South Africa? I know things might have changed when I last worked here, but do you think South Africa still deserves a pale ale? Don't you think it's still the brand to push, the style of beer to push?
I think it's the next step from lagers. So craft lagers, then you're going to get your pale ales, or Weiss beers, low bitterness, and then moving up into maltier products, amber ales and IPAs. That's kind of the progression that the consumer normally takes, or the passionate beer drinker would take. And we think that this pale ale is that next step from the lager. And again, it's we could go like we have other pale ales like our Butcher Block, which is more styled around American pale ale. But this one here is just a bit easier on the palate. But we want that sessionability, but we definitely want that spike of hop coming through. So more aroma hops than bittering hops on this particular one.
I think most breweries in South Africa are starting to really pick up and notice that if you want a beer to do well in South Africa, you have to have that factor. It has to be sessionable.
Yeah.
Because I think that's just, I'm pretty sure that's how the South African markets drink their beer. They want that sessionable beer.
It's kind of in our culture. It's in our DNA. We don't
exactly.
We don't just want to drink one or two. We really like to drink 6 or more at a braai. So if you throw an IPA into that mix, you know it's not ideal as a high alcohol, high bitterness product or style of beer. So these styles might be a bit more suited to our current culture and way we drink beer. So we're excited about it, and
well, I'm enjoying it. It's
good.
It's everything you explained in terms of sessionability, not too bitter, not too malty. It's perfect. So I will definitely enjoy a few of these in the summer.
Good. You can pick a 6-pack up on the way out.
See,
I'll give you a special price.
This is why I do the show. Sometimes you say the right thing. There you go. Next thing you know, you get invited on a surf trip.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've got a list of questions, and I said to you when we spoke earlier, it's not going to be that rigid, but I did want to kind of tackle a few things, and I thought I'd give you an opportunity to just kind of let the people know more about Mr. Ross. Who is Ross? But also, Jack Black and your decision to start a microbrewery. But let's go through these questions, and you've had a chance to just look at a few of them.
Yeah.
You guys have been open for more than 11 years now, which is an amazing achievement. Tip of the hats to you guys.
Thank you.
You're pretty much one of the oldest microbreweries in South Africa, and you've seen a lot of changes over the last few years. What do you think, or what have you noticed that have been a few highlights over those past 11 years? Things that have really stood out for you?
I'll never. Some people say never, but I'll never stop getting a real thrill when I walk into a random bar in the middle of South Africa somewhere, and I see some guy or girl or whatever drinking some Jack Black, and I've never met them. They're probably not on our social media feed, and they're drinking a Jack Black, and that is still to this day, even from day one, that image is something that excites me, and I always smile, And then I hope it's a good pint. I hope it's been poured properly. I hope that then all the fear creeps in that it's they're enjoying it. Are you enjoying it? Please make it your second pint or something. So that's really enjoyable. A lot of fun. And the other things that have really stood out to me, Meg and I, my wife and I, started this thing, as you said, 11 years ago, and from the 2-man show, very humble beginnings, to see over this time the team growing and changing, and some people come and go, but we've got a lot of folks here who've been here, for almost 9-10 years, and like Hector and our guys, some of our delivery guys, and Walter, the guys who sanitize our lines, and from 2 people to 70 plus people in our little company. Has been a real joy, and
which is still small compared to American size.
Absolutely.
Microbreweries.
They get into close to thousands, like mid 500, and that's kind of where you're kind of sitting. And of course, we have all of our distribution partners and all those guys out there, and obviously our restaurant partners are great. But that getting that team, and they're all passionate bunch who work in this industry, and it's great to see. And a lot of them, they just love the perk of being able to go after work on a Thursday, Friday, and have a pint of Jack Black at the end of the day in our tap room, and kind of enjoy that. And we have some really good moments. So that's really fun. And also, what's highlights to me too is the customers that we've built up over the years. We've had customers like the Mount Nelson and Rick's Cafe and those guys who were our first draft customers, and we still are supplying them today. And they've stuck with us through tough times, good times, through many out-of-stock situations, over seasons where it's been challenging.
I recall.
Yes. and those relationships have been really important and great, and brought a lot of joy. And making friends within the industry. We're all pretty passionate about it. Craft beer at the end of the day is not super easy. So we all kind of group together, customers, consumers, and we kind of celebrate those things and those relationships.
It's easy to forget that you're dealing with other businesses. And from my experience when I had my restaurant last year, I was on a totally opposite end of receiving beer.
Yeah.
So when sales rep came in, I already knew what their game was.
Yeah.
But it's when you look at it from that aspect, working with different businesses, everyone's there to grow their own business, and if you grow it together, it becomes a more structured, stronger union.
Yeah. Look, as you grow, as any entrepreneur in any business, it's challenging to maintain these relationships, and growth is a challenging thing. It can be difficult. But we pride ourselves, and we of course we fail from time to time. We pride ourselves on really maintaining and looking out for our customer, and then therefore the consumer first. It's important to us, and we will never let that go. So we've got new sales forces in the field, but we've also got our local guys, our ambassadors, and all the rest of it who try and maintain those relationships and be in touch. I mean, my phone still rings every day with customers who want to talk to me because my cell phone number is everywhere. And I haven't changed it or anything like that.
It wasn't me.
It's like, Ross, where's my beer? It was meant to come an hour ago. And I'm like, okay, let me look into that for you. That's actually important stuff.
That must be quite an interesting tipping point where your business grows to such a point where you no longer have control over everything.
Yeah.
Where you have to make sure that people are looking after it. But there's obviously, I'd imagine an analogy of a hill. You can see what's in front of you, but over that hill, it just keeps going. So you have to any business.
So we have to adapt all the time, as any growing business has to. But you really need to keep your core values of great beer, the best service you can give, and really focus on those, and don't be. There's a lot of stuff coming at a businessman all the time.
Yeah.
And kind of just try and focus on the core things that work that you need to look at, and kind of wear blinkers to some of the other stuff that's not that important.
No, for sure. And I've got a question which we can touch on later.
And then the last thing, that's really been a real milestone for us is building our brewery in 2016, or finishing in 2016. So we've been here for almost 3 years, and that it's a state-of-the-art brewery. It's allowing us to really make better beer. It's allowing us to grow for the future, which is really exciting. And those prior to that, we were struggling a lot with capacity constraints and those types of things. Sometimes quality issues. But we've really now that we have the control of our process in a new facility that's again state of the art. Is really, really fantastic. And of course we have the tap room attached to it, which is a great experience for our consumers, and we get literally thousands of people in here a month.
I see a lot of photos and you guys always look like you're packed, which is
it's amazing what photography can do. No, we are packed. This is a little monster.
It's a great problem to have, as any restaurant owner would say, having too many people and just pumping up there.
We can seat up to 120 people in our tap room, and we can get 500 in our space. And I'm so thrilled with the location too in Deep River. So it's it's between the cool hubs of Museburg and Lakeside. We have obviously the Constantia guys on the hill, and then we got our locals next door in Plumstead and Deep River. And then you got your Claremont, and it's so great to be out here. We were looking at town a lot, initially at sites, but the buildings just didn't work out for our requirements, and there was such a luck to find this place, and again, surrounded. We're in an industrial area because that's what we need to be in for our licensing. But we literally across the road we have residential, so we're part of the communities here, and we have so many guys and girls and families and grannies and grandpas and the whole lot coming, across the road, walking here.
Jeepers, of course, if you live near a brewery, of course you can do that.
No, totally. It's that's really been cool to see too.
You mentioned that you have a venture with up to 500 people. You can seat 120 people.
Yeah.
You've got an event tomorrow. So I don't know when I'm going to release this podcast, but you've been doing the Wavescape thing now
for years and years.
Years and years.
Yeah.
So that's happening tomorrow, and you've got a whole bunch of longboards. It looks like a graveyard. It looks like they're just all these...
The big wave guns, not longboards. There's nothing wrong with longboards. I've got longboards, but these are big wave guns.
Big wave guns. Okay, you're teaching me something.
These guys are surfing local spots like Sunset and Dungeons and Crayfish Factory and some crazy spots. They've got nerves of steel, these guys. And so we have an event here tomorrow for 9 Mile Project, where the guys have made a beautiful wooden longboard that we're raffling away. So it should be a nice full house here tomorrow, and we have all the big wave surfers coming in, and we're very excited about having these guys. And again, it's connected to our passion for the oceans, for the Cape Town, our passions for surfing, so that's kind of leads into. That's been our position for years now, and it also leads into our relationship with Wavescape, the Ocean and Film Festival that happens here in the last week of November and December, and this year we're the title sponsor, so that's quite cool.
Very cool.
We've upped our game.
Sure, look at that.
We've dug deep.
That's very
upped
cool.
our game, and we're really thrilled about that. So we really believe in it, and we really believe in taking care of our oceans around the Cape, and we really believe in surfing, and because it connects you to nature in such a great way.
And it not that it should matter, but it connects your product to that culture, to that demographic of people who are surfing mad, and then they can see that there's a company or product that also cares. 9 times out of 10, they're going to be drawn to that product.
Potentially. I mean, that'd be great if they do. But I think also, surfing is growing. When I was a kid surfing in Muizenberg, there was hardly anybody in the parking lot. Now you can't find a space there on any given day, and there's just such an uptake in surfing for young and old. Everybody's kind of getting onto a surfboard now.
Greg Casey from Banana Jam is always there.
Yeah.
He doesn't work, I don't think.
He just surfs, doesn't he? I see him occasionally, but it's normally on a weekend, not during the week at 2 o'clock. Greg, I don't know if the swell might be up, but let's have a look at it. Sometimes I don't tell anybody.
It's just you and I, right?
Just you. We've had a real strong relationship with Wavescape, and are thrilled to have the honor of being involved with them, and throughout the events, you can find Jack Black, and you can watch some movies and listen to some really passionate people talk about the ocean and the environment, and drink a Jack Black at the same time. That's the kind of stuff we like.
Yeah, that is cool. Yeah. Let's shift gears a bit.
Yeah.
Going back to some of the questions, I wanted to talk about the South African beer industry, and you worked in the States as a sales rep, from what I recall, and you obviously spotted a gap in terms of craft beer and South Africa not really having much of a market. There's a train of thought that people believe that South Africa is a few years behind in terms of the States. What do you think, or what examples have you experienced that would either make that a true statement or false?
South Africa is kind of potentially like the States.
Some people say we're 2 years, 5 years behind the States in terms of catching up. Some people say we're 20 years behind. Obviously, it depends on what kind of segment of the market you're looking at. We obviously don't have the middle class that the States have. But what have you seen in terms of similarities?
Look, I've mixed views on this. We all want to say that in the craft industry that it's going to go the way of the United States, because the United States is what 13. Don't quote me on this, but 13% of volume and maybe around just under 20% of value. And it's slowed a bit in its growth, but it's still holding. And places like New Zealand are 20% of value, of volume. I'm not sure of the value. Yeah. So it's very developed markets, right? Sure. So obviously South Africa, as brewers, we really wanted to go the route of more developed craft beer markets. And we're, it's not official and there's no hard data around it, but we
not yet.
Is it coming?
Yeah.
Good. I'd love to see that, but it's calculated as less than 1% still of the market. So that would mean that there'd be a lot of growth to get to 11 or 20% of the.
Can you imagine what a different landscape it would be with 10%? Just 10%.
5% even.
Yeah, let's work on that.
But let's start with that.
Like you would just a completely different landscape, completely different players.
So I think a common, the common denominator between a developing or a new developing craft beer market like South Africa and the United States is that the consumer's palate continuously evolves. And consumers are always looking for new products, premium products. Premiumization in the liquor category, in a broader liquor category, is very well understood. So I believe that our consumers do have that desire for new products, more flavored products. I mean, once you start drinking craft beer, it actually is difficult to go back to mainstream style beers. And I firmly believe that. So that's great, right? But I do believe that in South Africa, with our socioeconomic factors and climate and route to market or logistics challenges, the economics make it difficult for South African craft beer to access these consumers at a competitive price, to get to that level. So, and again, coming back to like climate and how much money our consumers have, it's quite difficult to access craft beer. So they're just going to go for, the cheaper option. And are you going to in the hot sun? Are you going to be drinking an IPA? Possibly not.
Or spending £5 more on a craft lager.
Yeah. So those are the different, and hopefully, I see those are the challenges versus the US market now. And unless the economics change in South Africa, I see it's a tough route. It's a longer route. I don't see it as a 2 to 5 year thing. Unless suddenly, the rand improves in power dramatically and everything turns around, in the economy. So I think it's a longer game. I think we'll get there, but it's definitely a longer game. And we'll face stiff competition from the big guys.
Sure.
En route. They'll continue to try and make the cheapest beer possible and put it in much bigger formats. Liter bottles, 2 liter bottles. 2 liter PET bottles probably soon.
There's some amazing things coming out. It's just
so and that when we in the economy that we're in right now, it's difficult for even craft beer lovers to go, wow, I can get a liter of this for $10, and I'm getting a bottle of a 340 ml bottle for $16 or $20. So it's challenging, but again, hopefully.
Difficult in a recession.
Yeah, but again, the optimist in me says that craft beer will win eventually because people do want interesting new products and their palates evolve to more flavor.
Yeah, it's definitely not going away. It's here to stay.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about starting a microbrewery, and there are a lot of people who think I can homebrew. Let's start a microbrewery, or let's just start this. Let's try and make some money out of this. I've got some examples here of guys who've done, I suppose we could say, relatively well. John Hall of Goose Island. He was always considered by most of his peers as a businessman. Tony McGee, who visited us a few months ago, of Lagunitas Brewing Company, wanted to share his joy of homebrewing. Jim Cook of Boston Beer Co. was a brewer, but known for his marketing skills and making Sam Adams the best-selling craft beer in the US. A question to you, Ross, is where do you see yourself in amongst these skill sets, and what do you think is absolutely necessary or crucial in starting a microbrewery, or what's needed for that?
You're throwing around some big names there. So I don't even consider.
I'm putting you in the same bracket.
No,
I'm putting you in the same bracket, Ross.
Troy.
Come on.
Come on.
I want to see how many cases I can get.
It takes all types, from doctors, lawyers, musicians, of course, brewers, to start a craft brewery, there's thousands of stories, because there are thousands of craft breweries around the world, on how people started their breweries, and a lot of them who started weren't actually brewers. They were home brewers, like you said, or businessmen, or again, any. I think for me, the first thing that kind of got me into this business in South Africa was I was very passionate about the product. I was passionate about craft beer. I'm technically not a very good brewer, but I understand beer, and I understand flavor profiles.
You did a course at UCLA?
At UC Davis.
UC Davis.
Intensive Brewing Sciences, yeah. So I know the basics, but I'm not going to claim I'm a very good, even a home brewer. We've got a home brewing kit here, and we fiddle around a bit, but I'm not.
The Black Pearl.
Yes, I think you named that, Troy.
I think I did.
You did, and it has that name to this day. We should etch it on one of those.
We have to.
On one of those old kegs. I started the business out of a passion for the beer, not necessarily a passion for brewing, because I wasn't very good at it, but I knew what I wanted our beer to taste like. And I have a bit of a wine background, so I also know how to make wine, and I worked for a wine company for many, many years. And so that appreciation for different styles of wine led into beer. And I just found beer was way more fun at the end of the day. Like, I love wine, don't get me wrong, but the beer was way more fun. And so that passion kind of pushed myself and my wife to start this thing. And we had to find, we developed a recipe in collaboration with another brewer in Vancouver around a pre-prohibition lager, which is our flagship lager. And but then we got the professionals to make it for us, and we tweaked it along the way. And in beer tasting, in the beer business and in craft beer, we're always looking at changing and how to improve our beers. We don't have a 100-year-old recipe that we have to. We're a bit more flexible, into making beers that we enjoy and how we can continuously improve ourselves. Once we hit something like our Jack Black Lager that we think is pretty damn good, consistency is kind of what we stick on. But if we want to evolve something and have a new improved flavor, we'll look at that. So again, in terms of starting a brewery in South Africa, what I think you need to obviously have we have a passion for beer. This kind of gets you through the tough bits too,
Sure.
If you have a beer after a tough day, it kind of works. And then I think in South Africa, and a trait among a lot of craft brewers is like real determination. You almost have to have like a fear of failure, and you kind of you don't want to. You don't want to fail. Your desire not to fail is almost more than your desire to succeed.
Sure.
So you kind of do what you have to do, and
put your foot flat on the gas.
and just keep on going.
Flame under your arse.
And figure out what's right, and just keep on doing it. I mean, like that story about the market, standing at the market for 7.5 years. We knew it worked. Every Saturday, selling beers to guys at markets was Like that's what helped build the brand.
Some people don't know that, but you
Yeah,
put in the hours.
Yeah, the old biscuit mill, Neighbourhoods Market was a real
Catalyst.
benefit. Yeah, a catalyst. It was when we started the company. The market had been going for a little while.
Yeah.
I can't remember, 6 months or a year or something.
Sure.
It was a big success, and it still is today. And we luckily got a stand at the market, along with the guys from Brewers and Union, and we started selling our beers for 10 rand a bottle out of a barrel, which was good value at those days.
Sure.
And yeah, we were so successful at that market, selling hundreds of beers a day. We eventually moved into a tap system, beer on Jack Black on tap, and we'd sell a ton of beer there. And
it's amazing
what
people
great.
want to drink at 9 a.m.
Yeah, and what was really important to me is, firstly, we couldn't afford to have anybody else man the stand for us.
Yeah.
So it was myself and Megan. And then as the stand grew and the volumes grew and the number of pints we were serving grew, we got a couple of bartenders on. Then Megan started to actually have a life and enjoy her Saturdays a bit more. But I stuck there. And then after like 3 or 4 years, people were like, dude, why are you still here? But I felt, firstly, I really, going back to my first point, which was I really enjoyed watching people enjoying Jack Black. And I'd be able to do that, almost 1,000 times on a Saturday, and I'd pour the pint for them and take their 10 or 20 bucks or whatever. And that was really joyful for me. And then it got to a point where I was also tired, but I was like, no, I have to do it.
Yeah.
No, this is part of the part of the journey is I have to stay. And if it wasn't for the new tap room and a bit of consolidation, I'd probably still be there to a degree. Probably maybe not the whole day, maybe not waking up at 5 a.m. and finishing at 5. I'd probably go in there for a few, I don't know.
I saw some hair stand on the back of your head there.
Yeah, I'm a bit grey now. I've got kids, so those have also come along the journey, So I've got some young kids now. But I would still, I'd make the effort to be there because it's part of that story, So that's kind of...
It's a direct avenue for your consumer.
Yeah.
You are there watching them drink your beer.
Yeah.
And you're cutting out the retail costs that might get added onto your beer.
So we can provide good value,
Yeah.
It's
a win-win. It's a win-win as a brewer.
And we get feedback on our beers. We'd see regulars come back. We'd chat to them. We'd ask. We'd fire questions and ask them, where they're from, what they're doing, and we'd have a lot of local South Africans, local Cape Townians, and South Africans, and obviously internationals. And a lot of them, their first craft beer would be served by the founder at a market where they're having a super great time, listening to music and eating cool food as well. And that was a real experiential thing. And in that environment, the brand would stick.
Yes.
So they would remember that brand in that moment. If it was just in a little tasting in a busy bottle store, you don't get the same type of effect. You get an effect, but it's not the same.
What was your? I'm going off course here, but not really. What was your whole reasoning with Jack Black, the name?
We knew that we wanted to. When we came back to South Africa from Canada, we did a bit of research behind, what the beer industry was doing. It was limited research due to limited budget, as always.
Sure.
And we found out that premium, as it does, the premium craft, premium international brands were growing.
Yes.
So the Peronis, the Grolsches, the Stellas, those brands, Heinekens, those brands were growing within South Africa. Unfortunately, craft 11 years ago was quite small to the Boston and the Mitchells and Birkenhead and a few other guys, and it wasn't quite making impact at that point. But international beers were growing, premium beers. So we knew that I grew up in South Africa, so I knew that lager and a very infantile craft beer scene, to introduce a IPA, which what I was drinking, or a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, which what I was drinking in Canada and the US, would have been a tough sell because the consumer and customers weren't even aware what craft beer was in general.
Sure.
So we were actually it was an educational thing that, our first few customers like, what is microbrewed beer? Because that's what they called in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then we're going to flip to the global standard of craft beer. But what is it? It's an independent company producing small volumes with the best ingredients and passionate and care. And like, what? They only knew SAB and a small amount Heineken.
Yeah.
So we decided that we wanted to make a lager that was more flavorful as a point of difference to what was in the market, of course, and with better ingredients, a longer time to brew, so on and so forth, as that point of difference. And the style. Then we looked at the styles of lager that were around the world, and we really stuck on the pre-prohibition style, which is higher fermentation temperatures, more fuller malt body than your mainstream stuff. So we decided on that style of beer that's what we wanted to enter the market with. And then we also decided that we looked around. Pre-prohibition was an American term before 1930s, before prohibition. What beer were they drinking?
Yeah.
And who was brewing it? So we looked around that era, and the Black family, they were hop farmers in New York State.
Nice.
And Jack is a nickname, was the son of the hop in the family, and he brewed beer. So we don't know his recipe, but that's to us the not as important as what they were doing around that era, and the hop industry in the US was very interesting. So we decided to go, to name our beer after a real brewer, John Jack Black, and that's kind of the long story behind it. But we chose that over a local name or a local position.
Sure.
Because the research showed that international brands, which were growing, and local wasn't so lekker 11 years ago. But with the advent of the markets and over the last 11 years, local has become more and more important.
Sure. Yeah.
And it continues to be important. Even outside of the craft beer, rather just in the beer category itself, local is becoming more important.
For sure.
And so while Jack Black the name is an inspiration, he's an inspiration, he's a legend, we've taken on a lot more local elements into our business.
Sure.
We're a local company, we're a South African company, and so we've got our Cape Pale Ale, our Skeleton Coast up the,
you
up
guys
the West Coast.
definitely made it very local.
Atlantic Vice. So we believe in
African
local.
Queen. You got
we use that's the Jack Black fresh hop IPA. We're using the African Queen hop.
Yes.
And you'll
beautiful level.
Yeah, and we're doing some more label stuff, which is quite cool, or very cool. And so local is important, and our position, and again, we're a local company, is true. But that's a long way of saying how we came around to
No, I appreciate it. I think a lot of people don't actually know that story, and I know that when I try and tell the story, I might miss out a few facts. I think
we've often been said, just try and stick that story into one sentence. It's quite difficult. You kind of, but he is our inspiration, and he was back in those days. It was like the Wild West of beer, particularly before Prohibition, right? And so he's a good inspiration to us, because we also like to be a bit of a mavericks on some of the stuff. Let's not be too serious about the whole thing.
I'm going to add in a third point there, for going back to that question of what skill sets you need. We touched on passion, determination, and you kind of just said it now, inspiration. Mm-hmm. So they all kind of mold into one. Yeah. But it without sounding cheesy, it is what you really need at the end of the day to get you through the hard days and the good days.
It's very difficult. I mean, we're in South Africa. The craft beer is not a slam dunk business idea. What a lot of new guys into the market think it is. Wow, they see it on the shelf. This is easy. Let's just produce some beer and it's not. You have to have that passion and inspiration, and it has to always be there, because otherwise you'll pack up and go home. Because there's not a lot of, there's definitely not a Ponzi scheme. It's not a get rich scheme. It's like you gotta put 11 years into it.
It's hard graft.
And I'm still up to my eyeballs in debt. So I'm not, it's not what a lot of people think it is. I think you also need to you need to roll up your sleeves. You get your hands dirty. I think that's also integral, because when you do that, you get to understand the industry better. If you're sitting in your ivory tower, calling the shots and writing paper, you're not going to understand what is required to get to kind of move forward. So you need to roll up your sleeves, and you need to also
go into retail, go into markets.
You can't just make beer and
go into uncomfortable situations that you wouldn't be used to, and talk to the customers.
Go and do surveys. Go and see what's happening out there. Ask questions. Don't just look at some the stats from Euromonitor or whatever and say, this is what we're going to do. Because every time you look at the beer category as a whole, you can very easily, as a new beer craft brewer, you can become an instant spreadsheet millionaire just by looking at the category. Of course, we can get 0.5% of the business.
Yes.
Of course. No.
On paper, maybe.
On paper, it's easy because it's such a big, beer is so big. But in reality, when you're out there, the competition is fierce and competitive and overly competitive. They're like hyper competitive.
No, I can imagine.
I mean, if they sniff something, even if it's 0.5% of the marketplace, they go crazy.
Not even 0.5%.
Not even 0.5%. They go for it. But I think what's also important for any aspiring brewery owners listening to you is you also need to be passionate about the business. And you might be able to make great beer, and you might be able to design a cool label, but you need to really want to know the business of beer and get into the business of beer. And I think that's something that we've done that's also inspired me. Passion for relationships with your customers and servicing those guys, and get enjoyment out of the sale to your customers and servicing the customers. And keeping your ear to the ground, understanding what's happening in the industry, so you can adapt to what's going on, to the preferences of the consumer, and that's and show innovation. So we've got our lager, which is our flagship now, which is awesome, thank goodness. But where's what's the craft beer consumer? What's the craft beer consumer going to be drinking in 5 years' time? Sure. We're saying we think it's going to be products like Cape Pale Ale, IPA, Kolsch, or some different stuff, and we need to understand that. You look at the United States, IPA by far is still the largest selling style of beer in the United States.
And it's not a South African IPA; it's a 7% IPA.
7.5%, 70, 80 IBUs. Boom, and that's their session. That's their session ale.
Exactly, that's what they warm up on.
The 10%ers are the one that they sit down and only drink about. Yeah, so it's quite radical. So you have to love the business of beer, otherwise it's and you have to also deal with the politics. It's all the fun stuff. I mean, it's a great big old school ground out there. It's great. Would you like another beer?
I would. Should we push pause?
Push pause.
Push pause.
Let's go. Scary characters.
Still recording. I'm reminded about a story where, speaking of dirty, getting dirty and putting your sleeves up, where you actually went into bars when you started with a 6-pack. You sat at the bar, maybe somewhat stubbornly, and just sat there waiting to speak to a manager until they would, I don't know, correct me, but you would either open your beer and drink it because there was no Jack Black available, or you waited for the manager to kind of see you and just be like, okay, let's just try it. Let's buy 1 6-pack.
Look, I've definitely walked into bars with my own beer. Not because they were serving crap beer otherwise, but normally, you got to go out there. You can't sit on the phone and call guys and say, can I please have an appointment to come and see you to present my beer, my craft beer? And then they say, well, what's craft beer? And sometimes you would do that, obviously with some hotel customers or big groups. But with the bar down the road or something, like you just go in there, right? And
Sure.
there's no use not taking some product in with you. And very, your hit rate is not too bad if you just go in there with some of your beer and it's cold and you sit there and you wait.
Cool.
And so if you bring in like really cold beer to a bar, you don't have an appointment. It's hopefully through sales skills you can convince the manager or the decision maker to say, sure, just
Have a sip.
Have a sip.
One sip.
I know it's only 9:30, but
Yes.
have a sip. I'm thirsty. It's hot outside. So you have a sip. So yeah, and rolling up your sleeves. I mean, the other thing we learned, and you'll see a lot of now is beer on tap, right? And we started with beer in the bottle, and it didn't sell that well right in the beginning. But beer on tap sold like.
Okay.
And once you have a nice towel on the bar counter, people were prepared to try a beer on tap, and we didn't have technicians back there, so I had to learn pretty fast on how to install a cooler and maintain old equipment and clean old equipment.
So basically, you had to do everything.
Yeah.
It was.
Well, yeah, pretty much. So you have to be pretty. Again, rolling up your sleeves. Unless you have a ton of money, but then you don't get to understand what your customers and what your consumers are doing. So it's almost better not to have a lot of money when you open a craft brewery.
Quotes, unquote.
It's better to use other people's money. No,
Yes.
it's better to have to get into the muck of it because again,
I think any industry, any profession,
and you see guys opening their breweries with lots of money, and they go through these traditional kind of marketing strategies and approaches and executions that suck up your money.
Yeah.
And they don't deliver the results because either you don't have distribution,
it gets
your
chewed up,
price point's wrong,
spat out,
or it's not what the consumer is exactly looking for, or whatever the case might be. But if you're lean and hungry and don't have any money, you got to find the right answers and take little baby steps.
Yeah. No, I've seen it happen. Unfortunately, way too many times where you get invited to these launches and the company that starts in has hired this other media company to see what the consumer wants.
Yeah.
And it's just you might as well not even continue.
Yeah. Because a lot of it goes on once you're passionate about it and you're in the industry all the time and you're in the trade. You might not have the real stats, but you can go a lot on your experience and gut feel and understanding just by talking to people.
And from there, you can almost develop your own movements.
Yeah. And
if you know the industry well enough.
The research companies that these guys hire are going to tell them what they can read in Euromonitor, and it's probably going to be the wrong bloody thing.
Yes. So I've got a smile on my face because it's true. It happens. Well, let's talk about the last 10 months. And it's been a while since Heineken came to South Africa and started partnering with different breweries. But Jack Black was the third, correct me if I'm wrong, the third brewery that Heineken partnered with. And it feels like a year, but it actually happened earlier this year. It was 10 months ago.
March, April.
Yeah. What positive changes have you seen since then? What's anything that's happened that's really drastically changed the business?
When I took you on the tour of the brewery earlier, there's been tons of positive stuff. We've been able to focus now more than ever because previously we were focused on logistics, route to market partners, challenges, service delivery challenges around draft. And at our scale, that was actually quite challenging. And then, our route to market partners were having a field day with us because we didn't have any clout. So we were paying a lot more to get our product from A to B. And Heineken has been absolutely great in giving us real value in that realm, getting our product from A to B, and around the country. and that has allowed us to focus on, with that bit of mind space that is now not occupied with that. We
Sure.
can now focus on our innovation, our products, our quality, our production team, our communication to the consumer.
And
so
it's-
we are still responsible for all of that and more, and we're responsible for the positioning of our product and our brand
Yeah.
in the marketplace. So it's been great. We still have super high debt, but we've scrounged up a bit of money with the help of our partners because they've got a bit more leverage, as you can imagine. And we put a centrifuge in place. We put in a great lab.
There's some technical stuff going down now.
Yeah.
Did
So-
you get involved in that? Going back to our previous question, or do you get kicked out? So you just get kicked out of the bar.
People roll their eyes at me, but
Yeah.
I know just enough to be irritating.
You're like the old dad with the Kids Science
I know
Project.
just enough to be like kind of just ask the questions, and then they have to kind of apply themselves. So I'm interested in kind of learning about the lab process, and I know it's fundamental and integral to what we're doing, and improving the quality of our beer and the stability of our beer. And there's you can spend millions on these, and most craft brewers don't have the kind of resources to be able to do that. And you can still make a great beer.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. You can make a fantastic beer without the lab. But when you start shipping more beer, when you start having a consumer base that is and as the category develops, your consumers getting more demanding. They're not going to let you make mistakes.
Yeah.
There's more options. You better make the best damn beer you can every day. And our lab allows us to do that. And on top of that, the lab allows us to be more efficient. So we're not wasting resources like CO2 or energy or a whole bunch of, a whole plethora of things that I'm not completely qualified to talk about. But they include me on a bit of it.
But it's nice that some people are taking care of it, and you know that's in good hands.
And so, we're reducing our energy consumption, we're reducing our CO2 consumption, we're reducing a lot of things which are better for water, of course, better for the environment, better for our production.
It makes way for
and ultimately
innovation.
it also saves us money.
It makes way for innovation. It gives you, the guy who started it all, like time to, first, some time to breathe, hopefully. Secondly, you can now focus your energies on forward direction and not backwards. And what did go wrong, but what you can now create and not improve, but create and explore.
Yeah. So those things there, the logistics function is while good to understand and do, which we did for the first 10 years, 10 and a half years, important to understand. You with a partner like Heineken, they're taking that over. It's like a bit of a weight off the shoulders, which is great, and you're getting those economies as well because we're on the same trucks as the Heineken pallet. So.
And I found it interesting. You said you have 20-liter keg now as an option.
Yeah. So we look at again in the name of quality and consistency. For some of our Lumberjack, Ambrel, or IPA, we find it better to move into a 20-liter keg. So the keg rotation is higher. You're getting a fresh keg more regularly than a 30-liter or 50-liter keg sitting on the line for too long, and then the beer ultimately ages fast once it's connected to the keg. So those kinds of things, we really focused on the quality and again the innovation, not just with new products, which we do, but innovation within our existing products to improve the consistency and improve, like new and improved IPA. We're going to talk about that now.
Yes, we've just got a brand new one in front of us now.
So we keep on pushing that envelope, and also with this, we have built our brewing team has grown a bit, and it's so great now to be able to get these guys on who are highly qualified. You've got their masters in microbiology, and these guys are youngsters.
Yeah, I was going to say, they've got a lot of young brewers.
Yeah, but they're like, what is it?
Half our age.
Half our, And what does Peppa Pig say?
Clever
clogs. Clever clogs.
I don't have kids yet, so I can see you've obviously
They're
watched
clever clogs.
Okay.
These guys are clever. They're freaking beer nerds. You know? Like they're the Bill Gateses of brewing, not IT. You know,
Sure.
which is really fun to see. And they're working together, and we have high expectations of them, but they're rising to the occasion. That's rad.
And that's what you want,
Yeah. So that's what Heineken has allowed us to do. And apart from that, we're left to our own devices.
Yeah.
You know.
I want to ask a bit of a direct question. It's going to sound very direct, but I think it gives a good point for you a good base for you to answer the question. You're obviously not oblivious to the negative sentiments that sometimes you see on social media, especially when any craft brewery sells a percentage or sells all of it or partners with one of the bigger guys. Those sentiments on no longer being a craft brewery or selling out.
Yeah.
Do you believe you sold out?
No. I would say not sold out. We've partnered up. And there's lots of different types of partners in the industry. And I think partnering up with somebody with a company like Heineken that is a global brewer who has fantastic brands within its portfolio, who understands the industry, is better than partnering up with somebody who's got money but doesn't understand the industry. And who then a partner that doesn't have understanding will then expect or have expectations that might not be fitting to the category.
Sure.
So then they'll push you, maybe as a brewer, to do things that you shouldn't. However, Heineken understands the industry, understands the craft category, has invested in the craft category, and has the patience of a global brewer. That's,
They've been around for more than 100 years. Yeah.
So I mean, they're in it for the long haul. They're not in for a fast return. And that's really, so I don't think we could have had a better partner. And I'm honored to be, part of that. And I say not sold out too, because technically we are still majority shareholding. So technically we haven't sold out. We've partnered up.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk about Brewers Association or Craft Brewers of South Africa or whatever the case might be, they have their definitions, and based on those definitions, we are not a so-called craft brewer anymore. But again, I feel that, as I said earlier, they've left us to our own devices. So apart from fantastic distribution in the marketplace, we do everything ourselves. I have a monthly update phone call for like half an hour that we talk about, what's happening in the business. Otherwise, we aren't wearing suits. I'm still, wearing a t-shirt and shorts and whatever. But
Ross has got a bit of, I think, baby food spilt on his top. I did remember the one time at the office where you shook your protein shake, but you didn't close the lid.
I remember that too.
And you had to go home because you were a mess.
No, we don't take well to the corporate thing, right? And they know that, and our partners know that. And guess what? They don't want us to be corporate.
Yeah.
Because then that's not the goal. The goal is to make fantastic beer that the consumer wants a bit now and hopefully a lot more in the future, and keep on doing what we're doing.
Which consumer?
The consumer is probably underage right now. But
future drinkers.
Yeah, future beer drinkers.
People who...
Yeah, and people who are getting tired of the mainstream and want different new brands. It's gone are the days of... you still have it, obviously, but that extreme loyalty, to a brand. guys are extremely loyal. Why? Because of either probably price,
Yeah.
and they can't afford anything else, so they'll stick to what they know at a low price. Or if it's really expensive, they'll be loyal because then it's high risk. But stuff in the middle, everything in the middle, it's like, hey, And so I think these beer companies are realizing this, and they're saying we need to get involved in these young guys, these young companies who are making cool, interesting products and help them out. And I believe that the partnership is what I really like about it is that we've been, as I was mentioning, we've been able to focus on making better beer. Then when I started a brewery, I didn't envision myself doing logistics every day. So they're helping us with that, which is great. So the partnership is great from freeing up that time to focus on the beer, but also with that effect of getting our craft beer out there, we are accessing more consumers to great beer. Who can argue with that?
Exactly.
I'm sorry, we want to get our beer to more consumers or more people who don't have access to great craft beer.
It goes back to our first question.
Like Northern Cape or Bloom or something. I don't know. We hardly sold any beer in Pretoria. Now I'm getting feedback that we're in a few cool bars in Pretoria and it's going like gangbusters. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
let's get to that 5%.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a way to get there. And I also in the United States, where your consumers are more affluent and there's many more of them, it's a bit different to what we've done here in South Africa because of our big challenges with logistics and stuff. So I understand the criticism. I understand it, but we're also not reducing the price of our beer to the price of the mainstream. We maintaining our price point. We maintaining
because
our
of the
position.
ingredients that you put.
We don't want to change our suit. We're happy in what we're doing, and I'm not shaving my beard.
Please don't.
Tomorrow. Yeah, thanks.
Please don't.
It's got nice white. Makes me look regal.
So I hope. Yeah, you hope. We now know what Ross says to himself in the mirror every morning when he leaves. I appreciate that honesty and answer, because I think it's for me it's weird to kind of see why people react, especially with the beer industry, when something happens, when something changes. But you don't find it a lot in any other industry. This is going to sound funny, but I've heard the cheese industry in South Africa is ruthless.
Yeah.
There's a maple syrup mafia in Canada. There are all these other industries which don't get a bad rap or don't get that emotional connection. So I don't have an answer. I'm just making an observation. I don't know why beer gets such a...
I think we've learned it from the United States. I don't think the South African, the craft beer category or industry is not necessarily completely defined now in the consumer's mind. I know they're starting to define it now more as a craft brewing association. So
and then again,
defining it. And but I think we're learning a bit of the sentiment from the States and the selling out to the corporates kind of thing. But I think it's different in South Africa, and I think it was a natural progression for us. We needed to do it to access the market better, to be able to make better beer, and so I think it was a good move. But we never exclusive of the other craft guys too. For me it's very simple to see that we're less than 1% of the craft beer market in South Africa. The more craft beer people are drinking, our brand and other brands, the better. There's so much space and scope for growth. As long as somebody's drinking a craft beer, that's great. And that's why here at the tap room we have our festivals, inviting other independent craft brewers to the festivals. And we have a successful tap room, and those guys who come to our tap room can then try other beers. We've had quite a few of these very successful events. And I've got lots of friends in the industry. And I do strongly believe that category growth, craft beer category growth in South Africa is as important as obviously the growth of our own company and the sustainable growth of our own company. I don't see us, if the category suffers, we suffer.
Sure.
You know?
Makes sense.
So I'm a huge supporter. It's not like we're on our own little mission. You know, we want the category to grow.
Yeah. You want more people to drink your neighbour's beer.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then when they can't find my neighbour's beer, they might drink our beer and vice versa, you know.
One last question as we start to wrap it up. We've been talking for an hour, so it's gone very quickly, but I've enjoyed it. What's next for Jack Black? What's on the horizon? And what do you predict to happen in the South African market in maybe 2 to 3 years? And while you answer that, I'm going to be drinking your IPA. What is this?
Yeah, Skeleton Coast IPA, new and improved.
How so?
We are
different hops,
more dry hopping. Okay. The hop profile's changed a bit, using a bit more Citra.
And you've got a new machine. Remind me what.
We've got the centrifuge.
Ooh, okay.
Beautiful little piece of equipment that allows us to retain the hop profile more so than a filter, and it's a brighter, fresher kind of flavor that's coming out through the centrifuge.
It's definitely the not even the bigger brother, but like the uncle of a Cape Pale Ale, because it's got that same kind of hop character, but then it's just got a little bit more sweetness, which I think amplifies everything.
I'm really, again, pleased with what the brewing team's doing and you know, the tweaks that we're making, the quality improvements. And I was just in the Yakima Valley in Washington for a hops conference.
Oh, nice.
Really cool, a whole week up there, and tasting obviously a lot of hoppy beers. And
I would hope so.
Yes, and I was really proud that the Skeleton Coast really stood up from a quality perspective to, you know, the US IPAs. While different, you know, the quality cues are in our product. So I think, you know, we are, some of the breweries down here and us are capable and brewing some world-class, you know, beers, which is really exciting. So yeah, we're excited about the Skeleton Coast.
So,
but you want to tell what?
Question was the horizon for Jack Black and the
2 to 5 years.
2 to 5 years.
I think the, you know, us getting significant amounts of market share, 5%. I think I think 5% is achievable.
Yeah.
I think 10% is a long shot, actually. At least in the next, you know, couple of decades. But 5 years, 2 to 5 years, I think we're still going to struggle with the economy the way it is. You know, if we come out of this, you know, recession, we might see a bit of an uptick. But I think I think craft brewers now are going to struggle, and the big brewers here, AB InBev, they're just slashing the price of their beer, increasing the size of their packs, anything to get that horrible term share of throat,
retail space and all
that. And it's just getting more and more dog eat dog. So we're struggling in the retail environment, and now there's sufficient craft brewers that the new entrants are struggling on the bar counter space.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it's a struggle for the craft brewers for the next few years. And if I was starting out again, I'd say first check all the boxes: inspired, motivated,
Determination,
and
getting
some
dirty.
stupidity maybe.
Yes, okay. I'll put that in here.
That have all of those things checked, and then I would also think of guys and girls who want to do this. Make phenomenal beer. Don't. You may make phenomenal beer, but I would get a third party opinion on that.
Yes.
And it can't be a biased opinion either.
Sure.
And you have to be able to make it consistently. So you might be a brilliant home brewer, but to yourself, but maybe not. You got to get that checked. The reality check. So make phenomenal beer consistently, number one, or be able to. And if you can't, guys and girls, get somebody you can, like we have. The master brewers and stuff like that. So that's important. And then my other thing is, go for the smaller model. Go for the brew pub.
Yeah.
Go for being able to sell your product at full retail price. Then you can actually make some money. As soon as you start selling it to wholesalers, you're getting pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
So you focus small, be tight, make phenomenal beer, open a nice tap room. We've seen how beneficial it is here. So you have to have an inclination to be able to run a tap room and engage with the consumer. You can't, just sit in your brewery and not engage with your consumer. So I think that's what's going to consolidate over the next couple of years. We're going to see a few guys fall off the...
That's obviously the one way that the big guys can't get into your market.
Yeah. So start that brew pub thing, and then try and get the right license, the micro manufacturing license, and start selling to your local area, hopefully around you. So supply 10 pubs or something, and your own. And once hopefully if you reach, and also don't start on a system that's too small, but start on a system that like 750 liters or 1 hectoliter or whatever. No, sorry.
I think 100 liters is a good... 100 liters
10 hectoliters.
To experiment to 1,000 liters,
10 hectoliters. So, you kind of do something that you're not continue. You don't have to be 24 hours a day brewing just to get the right volume out. Have a system that can actually support a bit of growth. And then if you hopefully run out of capacity on that, then maybe look at your neighbor to help you with some brewing, Don't overinvest.
Yeah. Because I'm sure there are brewers who want to have that space.
And then I think in the next 2 to 5 years, if we get out of this recession, which hopefully we will, you'll see the slow growth. We are seeing growth, thankfully, but it's not the growth that we were anticipating a couple of years ago. So there's definitely been a slowdown with, the hyperactivity and competition in the marketplace. But I'm optimistic in the future that 5% of the market, and if we're less than 1 right now, is feasible and possible. Whether it's in 5 years or 10 years from now is anybody's guess.
And it's going to be exciting to look back to now and looking forward how things have changed. Just throwing around that term 5% market share. It's exciting. That's completely different from where we are today.
So it's huge.
So
that's huge.
Yeah. Maybe let's work on 2%. But
we need to get to 2% to get to 5%.
Yeah.
But at 5%, there's a shift. There'll be a shift in the marketplace. We'll have enough exposure that then hopefully the growth continues to 7% and then 10%. But right now at 1%, you just don't have that exposure yet to the greater consumer in South Africa. So somehow we got to battle our way through this, clawing through it with no budgets, no nothing. And then if we break through, then there's this just kind of takes little jumps, and then hopefully at 7%, 10%, then everybody knows about craft beer in the country. They've all had access to it at some point. They've got access to it, maybe at a decent price point as well that they can manage, and then it could be exponential from 10 to 20. You don't know.
Yeah, you don't know.
So that's quite exciting.
But it is very interesting times we're living in, and it's almost up to the bigger players in the craft beer world or the micro manufacturing world to kind of draw in the numbers, draw in the people who still drinking the mainstream lagers, to get them into the world of just experimenting, just trying a different beer.
No, I hear you. I hear you, and our job is there to do that, and our job is to fight for space in the retails. Try and maintain the craft category space in the retail store instead of letting it dwindle. And that's kind of happening a bit now. There's a bit of a kind of a lull, and the craft is losing a bit of space on shelves. And so, the bigger players need to fight for that, keeping that space.
But the
and
craft
when
brewer
we start upticking again, then they can come on.
But what's good to see is that the craft beer, the brewer does have a smaller turning circle.
Yeah.
He can adapt.
Yeah.
He can shift around, and you can have that stuff.
Yeah. I also, I think that it's our job to educate all the consumers.
Yeah.
Because nobody else is gonna, and it's folks like you educating consumers, and also innovate. People do want new stuff, and I feel that trying to emulate bigger brewers is not the way to go.
Yeah,
we have to differentiate, not emulate. Ooh, I like that one.
I was going to say, I'm getting some absolute pearlers from you. We can maybe write a book after this.
And I
make some T-shirts. With
I'm worried that we want to innovate, and our mandate is to innovate.
Yes, lovely.
And again, I think craft brewers need to do that. To chase the numbers.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's helping us too much. I think it's about making good products, innovative products, and giving options. And hopefully we've got the ability to do that. Before we have to compromise on what we do to succeed.
I'm going to leave it at that.
All right.
I think that's a good kind of place to wrap it up. I'm doing air gestures. I just remembered there's no camera, so that no one can see what I'm doing.
No, but it's good. It's a sign of intelligent people when they use their hands to talk.
Ross, I don't know about intelligent. But you have just reminded me of one last question.
Yeah.
In all your 11 years working and being the boss at Jack Black, who would you say was your favorite employee?
Troy May.
And that is where we're going to leave it at, ladies and gentlemen. Ross, thank you very much.
Actually, I have to say there's two favorite team members, not employees, team members.
Yeah.
Mr. Troy May, of course.
Yeah.
And my wife. I cannot. That's. I got it. Yeah.
For legal reasons.
Yeah. I'm using my hands.
Yes.
I have to say that.
I know. I understand where you're coming from when you said it.
Yeah.
But again, Ross, thank you very much for your time today. Thank you very much, not just for today, but for, I think, everything in the beer world.
You bet, man. I'm doing what I love, right?
Yeah.
And it's like. It's an absolute pleasure, but it's my pleasure. I'm having a lot of fun doing it, and I get that a bit. Like, you guys have done quite well and helped the category, but it's what I love doing. So it's not a no need to thank me. I'm just doing what I love.
It's quite special when someone actually finds something that they just enjoy doing every day.
Cool.
Ross, thank you very much.
Thanks,
and
Troy.
to all our listeners,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Cheers.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to the show. One last thing before you take off. I've created a Patreon account. What is Patreon? Patreon is a website dedicated to artists creating content, and it gives them a platform to be able to get paid for their content. So no pressure to you guys, to my friends and my fans, but this kind of thing does help me to continue to grow and to continue to give you good content and to actually take this brand and what I'm doing to the next level. And I've got so many plans that I'm so excited to bring to you. So if you have a few minutes and if you have an extra buck to spare, I'd really appreciate you just going checking it out. But you can go check it out at Patreon and just type in #BeerTime and you'll see something there. I really appreciate it. Thank you.